Hello and welcome to today's edition of Gibson's Caring Corner. Today we have a guest and his name is Bentley. He is our mascot at home instead, and one of our last episodes talked about whether or not you should interact with pets whenever you're a senior. And then today we thought we would add to that about how to best take care of a pet. If you do have one and you want to get one for a senior, one of your senior loved ones. So, Elijah, do you have any thoughts for our audience on what it means to take care of your pet?
Well, for me, I have 2 Yorkshire Terriers, and they are very low maintenance but also high attention wanting dogs. They don't require a lot. They just need a little bit of food and a little bit of water because they're small dogs. They don't eat a ton, but the big thing is that they do want a lot of attention.
And probably, not probably, but for sure, your small dogs, they weigh, I know, less than 10 pounds. How much do they weigh?
No more than 10 pounds.
Yes.
No, and that's the majority of small dogs.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be less than 15 is going to be considered a small dog.
And that would be a perfect size for a senior that might be a little frail because they could sit on their lap. Bentley, he's a little bit bigger than that. He's hitting close to 40 pounds. And so, yeah, he can possibly jump on someone and push them over.
Yeah, so, that's definitely a thing you consider if you're an aging adult and you want to buy a pet. It may not be the best idea to get a Great Dane or a Saint Bernard.
Yes.
Those dogs are going to probably jerk you, and if you're walking them on a leash, and you probably will fall over because they're very strong.
Especially if they're a puppy.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, because they'll want to run around. And then also, if maybe you walk in the door and they just wanted to say hey, and they may jump up and put their paws on you, but since you may not have as good as balance as you did 20 to 10 years ago, and he may knock you over.
Right.
So, I do love big dogs, and I love small dogs, but...
Well, and I've had seniors before that, we've provided care for that, at certain ages, the Humane Society will not allow them to have a pet because they're afraid that they can't take care of them. So, I don't know I do not know if that's a law, but it does make sense that if you have a certain condition, you may not remember to feed them, may not remember that they need to go for a walk, and it could harm them.
Yeah. So, I know that in the last episode we talked more about how owning a pet affects a senior, but we meant more of how a senior can get all the benefits from a pet without actually owning it and taking care of it. And today we're really going to be talking about how a senior is affected when they really own a pet. And so we already kind of gave some examples of, if you have a big dog, that probably is not the best option. A small dog, he's going to be able to sit in your lap. He's going to be able to not jerk you around. He's probably not going to make you lose your balance unless you trip over him. And I've never had a problem where I've tripped over my own dog. I've stepped on his foot probably once or twice. But for the most part, they're pretty intelligent, like most animals, and they know, okay, let's me not trip over this person.
They are. I know one thing for sure. When Bentley wants to eat, he picks up his dog food bowl and he brings it to us. If he wants some water, he'll stand over to his water and he'll bark until we put water in his. So if we forget to do either, he reminds us pretty quickly. And when he wants to go for a walk, now he does jump in our lap and he's like, okay, it's 10:30. It's like a natural inside alarm at 10:30. Bentley's ready to go for a walk.
Yeah.
So that could also give a senior good exercise if it was a small dog that they could walk and not pull on them too hard.
Yeah.
It would be something that the animal needed, and of course you need it. You need to exercise, so that would help them have that sense of purpose and to go out and get some exercise and be able to take care of their pet.
Yeah, and I know that for you, Miss Tracey has a fenced-in backyard, and she has a dog door, and Bentley, and then his friend JoJo love to can just go outside whenever they want. They can use the bathroom. They can just lay outside in the sunshine. But for some seniors, they don't have a big yard. They don't have enough money to put in a fence.
That's right. Fencing can be expensive.
It can be, and so that's something to consider if you don't have a pet. Or if you have a pet, if you could get a fence, what are the pros and cons of that? If you don't have one, what are the pros and cons of that?
Absolutely. So, moving right along. Well, I didn't tell Bentley is a mini Bernie Doodle. He has the coloring of a Cocker Spaniel, but he's part Bernese Mountain Dog and part Mini Poodle. So that is the type of dog he is, which makes him a herder. So he only wants to be where you are. He doesn't want to fetch a thing, but he wants to keep up with you all the time. So, yeah, having a dog that is a herder that would give that companionship on a regular basis could be a benefit to the senior.
Yeah.
And speaking of companionship, let's start talking about our grandparents. So, Elijah, I know you have two wonderful sets of grandparents. I've had the pleasure of meeting both of them. And tell me tell me some things a grandchild would do. Maybe your grandparents, maybe not. But tell me what they could do to help their grandparents.
Well, as far as the work aspect goes, one of my grandparents, they live in Moorhead City, North Carolina, which is on the East Coast, and their yard is very low maintenance. It's it's not a small yard, but it's just low maintenance. They don't have to cut the grass very often. There's not a lot of sticks that fall down. They do have some flowers because they love to do gardening. But there's no really necessary big things that they would have to lift or pick up. So for me, I don't really have to go there and help them. Whereas with my other sect of grandparents, they have quite a big yard, and they have a lot of conifer trees that drop tons of pine cones. So normally once or twice a year, me and most of my family will go and we'll pick up pine cones. And they've had trees fall down, and we've had to go help with the trees because my grandfather, he's still very active, but he can't lift these big logs by himself. He needs help. And so that's kind of different ways you could help in the yard work. Is just, when you go there, if you live far away or you live close, just go and mow the grass for them or pick up a few sticks, maybe bring them some plants that are easy to water. And then inside the house, and most times I'll help my grandma just sweep or clean or help her make dinner. And in those times, I get to spend time with her. And this kind of leads into the more social aspect that grandchildren can help their grandparents with. It's just sometimes your grandparent just wants to do stuff with you. And it's not really work related, but it's just they want to do things with you, whether that's a walk in the park or taking you out to eat. Being social and just building good relationships with your grandparents is just very key. And there's numerous ways to do that.
That there is. Yeah, and Elijah and I were talking about, whenever you live your life and you want to give back to your grandchildren, you want to think of the experiences you've gone through and what have you learned in life that may help your grandchildren excel in a certain area or maybe help them not to make a mistake that you have made. And having the ability as a grandparent to give that information to a grandchild or anyone else, I think would be very valuable. I was looking at my phone I wanted to quote a scripture here. Proverbs 17:6, children's children are a crown to the aged, and parents are the pride of their children. So whenever you can spend that time with your grandparent, Scripture tells us that that's like a crown to that grandparent because they're so enjoying having those grandchildren. So and then your parents are also very proud of you as well. So anyway, I enjoyed looking up that scripture and sharing it. Other things and ways that people can honor and respect their grandparents. Look in the refrigerator. I know I've mentioned this. Anything expired, if they'll let you, be respectful. Always ask before you just do. And but the companionship piece, taking them out. I know on Saturday, I have my mother. I always get her season tickets for Performing Arts Live. And so we go to McGray Auditorium or wherever they have the event scheduled, and we get to hear live professional musicians. And this one was from Philadelphia. One of them, the one trumpet player plays in the Philadelphia Harmonic orchestra, and he was just fantastic. But it was a great evening, and we got to spend some good quality time together, and not focusing on housework and laundry and stuff like that. So it is good to get out, and your grandparent wants to get out as well, especially if they've outlived their spouse. Think about them and invite them, or if you know someone that doesn't have children that's living alone, invite them to something like that you're doing. And you know what? That will be a blessing. You'll receive a blessing because you've actually offered that. They'll receive a blessing just by getting to go.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything else, Elijah, you can think of that you'd like to share about grandparents?
Well, I would like to say there's definitely two types of way that you can interact with your grandparents. One is doing stuff for them, and the other is them doing stuff for you. One of my grandmas has a sign that says, "Grandma's the name, spoiling's the game." And so just to realize that sometimes it's good to just let people bless you is a blessing to that person as well, because it just definitely boosts their confidence. It makes them feel better about themselves. It makes them feel happy because they were able just to help you out. Maybe they took you out to a restaurant or they got you a gift. Just
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's okay just to say thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, and not go, oh, no, don't do that.
No, yeah.
Just say thank you. Absolutely. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's session of Gibson's Caring Corner.
Hi, welcome back to Health Tips with Cale, your exercise science, health, and fitness enthusiast. So the last couple of weeks, we were going over stress. We talked a little bit about what stress is. We talked about what to do before stress appears in our lives. And we all know that stress is going to appear throughout the day. We figured out that being in a positive mindset is the best way to prepare for stress before stress appears on our door. And we also talked about some different ways on what to do during a stressful situation. So, what do we do after a stressful situation? Well, that's a question I definitely haven't thought about. And I'm sure that's a question a lot of other people haven't thought about either. A lot of people might think of, okay, there's a stressful situation now, it's here, and then that's it. Nobody really thinks about ways to cope with it or deal with it beforehand, and nobody really thinks about ways to deal with it afterwards. A lot of times when we do think of how to deal with stress afterwards, it's chronic stress. It's big events in our lives that have really impacted us that we feel like we need help with. But not everything has to be big and bad that requires us to seek out help or to think of ways to take care of ourselves afterwards. So there could be a lot of things where there might be a added on small project at work, or taking on a new job, or whatever it might be, or getting a new pet at home, or some sort of shift in your schedule, or maybe a little bit of trouble with finances just for the small time or being. There are so many things out there that can cause stress for a short period of time, whether it's a day, or should I say an hour, a day, a week, a month. There are rarely a few things out there that cause us to really stress out for a year or longer. But let's dig into this, shall we? So, what do we do after a stressful situation has come and passed? Well, the Harvard Health says here, taking care of yourself physically and also connecting with others. So taking care of yourself physically could be going for exercise, which could be walking, running. It could also be stretching. So doing yoga or Pilates is a great way. And working on breathing. Breathing techniques is a great way to help really kind of control your body and control the breathing and really kind of bring your body back down to a normal, consistent spot. Connecting with others is a great way also. So spending time with family or friends, loved ones. So that's a great way to really let go of what has already come and gone and really focus in on being at peace and being happy and moving on from the situation. Because nobody really wants to dwell on something if they've already dwelled on it. What's the point of going through a situation twice? Once in your mind and once during your real life. There's no point in stressing out longer than we have to. So really connecting with family and friends and maybe going out for walks or going to a park or joining a fitness group or doing some sort of version of water aerobics is a great way too if you're elderly. Or doing yoga is a great way, especially for elderly. It's a great way to stretch and to keep your mobility and your balance. American Psychological Association here says practice mindfulness. They go on to say mindfulness is a practice of paying attention to the present moment without judgment. It can help reduce stress and increase resilience. So that just means saying, okay, this is where I'm at now, and not making a judgment call on it. So for me, right now, I'm sitting in this room, talking to you guys through this camera. Now, for me, that would mean taking that as an objective view. That would mean not taking any of my emotions or anything else, but to really kind of blank out my mind and just say, I'm in a room talking to a camera. That would be mindfulness. And not doing it just for one instance, but doing it for stretches of time, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or even longer. That would be practicing mindfulness. And then the National Sleep Foundation goes on to say, making sure you get enough sleep. They say sleep is essential for your physical and mental health. It can help reduce stress and improve your ability to cope with challenges. So that might be coping with challenges during, before, or after. And so maybe you had this really big project, or maybe you had something due, a big task that was due today for your work. Maybe you were presenting to your CEO or your director, somebody that was your boss's boss, Or maybe you're in school, or you're going back to school, and maybe you had a big project due for your class assignment that was worth a lot. Going through that, presenting whatever you had to do to present, getting that information out there, and doing really well. The next best thing to do is to go home and sleep. Let that day be over with. Just relax. Just let your body recover. Because we all need recovery. I don't know of a single person out there that can go 24/7 without ever sleeping. Without needing some sort of special help, which honestly we don't need. And we've seen the side effects of them not getting recovery or sleep. So sleep is vitally important. But what if you can't sleep? What if something was so stressful that you just can't sleep, you can't relax, you can't practice mindfulness, like nothing is working? Well, I'm a really big advocate for getting professional help. I've gotten professional help multiple times in my life. I've been in and out of professional or counseling, I should say, since I was 16. There's nothing wrong with going to see a counselor. You're going to see somebody that you don't know, and you're talking about your thoughts and your emotions, and you're digging in a little bit deeper, I would say, and trying to really pull things out so you can better understand yourself. And honestly, if you think going to a counselor is weak, then I would say that you've never tried to actually work through your emotions and your thoughts. Because to me, it takes a lot of strength and courage to say, hey, I need help, first off. To humble ourselves is one thing. And then to also be able to deal with those emotions and those thoughts in the moment while we're with a counselor, that takes a lot of strength. And I'm not just saying it for myself, I'm saying that for everybody out there that might feel stigmatized about counseling or getting help. But please, if you're depressed or if you have anxiety or any other psychological issues that you feel like you need to talk to somebody about, please, please, please go get help. But for those of us that don't need help, and whether it's we don't need help in the moment or we're okay for right now, and we just need help with stress, getting sleep, getting our exercise, whether it's going for a walk or run, and just spending time with others is a great way. And I want to encourage you guys to find some sort of way to brighten your days a little bit more. Whether it's getting outside for a nice walk before the sun goes down or while the sun goes down. Maybe it's calling up that old friend or your old family member that you haven't talked to in a really long time. Maybe it's grabbing breakfast with somebody that you truly love. Or maybe it's getting enough sleep. Trying to figure out how much sleep do you really need and aiming for that. I ask you guys to find out what's one way, whether it's getting enough sleep, exercising, or calling a friend this next week. And I'll see you guys again next week. Thank you. Bye.
Let's go back through time with the stories of Elizabeth Anne Rinehardt Gibson in Mooresville, North Carolina. I so enjoy reading these stories. So once VP had an old A-model Ford he brought from New Jersey after World War II. You know, that's back in the we won't go there. 19s. All right. One Saturday morning, VP asked Dad if he'd like to go hunt helga mice in the mountains. For sure he wanted to go, for he knew he would get to go fishing if they found the helga mice. Ruth and Susie wanted to go, so VP told them they would go, as well as Bill Maher. Also, Summers had a little Chihuahua dog who also wanted to ride with them. Dad was not excited about everyone going, but little could he say or do about it. Riding along, Bill Maher was holding Snoopy on his lap. He noticed her heaving and handed her over to Dad's lap. Whoops, up it came all over Dad. Well, he was not happy about that. Dad was obviously upset. In fact, he really died, for he had a very weak stomach. Never again would he go with the whole family and the family dog. A big red-letter day at our house would be after 9 o'clock at night, after all had gone to bed in wintertime. We would hear that sound from the end of the road at the frog pond. The Walter Weinberger truck full of mountain cabbage and apples that would be coming along. Walter would bring his brothers or one of his sons and come to the Piedmont area to sell their mountain goods. We would all jump out of the bed and build up the fire to keep warm. And Walter would bring the apples by the tow sack, full, and allow us to eat our fill. After catching up with how the families were, it was the best time. Mother would beg Walter to sleep in the house, but he never would. They always slept in the barn. Sometimes they would eat breakfast, but most times they didn't. The Weinbergers always seemed as family instead of only friends. I can never remember a time without them, for the family had become friends so many years before I was born. All the family was picking cotton below Coit's house, where Walmart is now, and the big persimmon tree stood in the middle of the field, and the Weinbergers were selling vegetables and fruit in our area and had eyed the persimmons. They asked if they could pick some off the ground to take back to the mountains with them. For sure they were invited to get all they wanted. In talking with one another, Granddad told them they could sleep in our hayloft or even in the house. They always declined the offer in the house, but did enjoy the comfort of the hayloft. Every year it came it came time for their visit at least once, sometimes more than once a year. It was always great to see them. Christmas in 1937, Alice and Jack let me spend the night for Christmas Eve. John Blame and I slept in the one bed, and right beside of us in the same room was another full-size bed with Jack and Alice. The Christmas tree was in the front room, and John woke up sometimes during the night, and he would wake me and said, "Let's go see what Santa brought." Just as we were sliding our feet onto the floor, Alice turned over in her bed, and we jumped back under the covers so she wouldn't catch us. We were afraid to try it again and fell back asleep. Jack and Alice got up and built fires and cooked breakfast before waking us. They made us eat breakfast before we could go see what was under the tree. John Blaine got a pretty little red bicycle, and I got a real big doll Sarah had bought for Santa to bring me. Man, that was the biggest Christmas ever. There might be a pack of old maid cards or checkers set or a horn, something small along with our shoeboxes filled with apples, oranges, stick candy, a tangerine, and a few pecans, Brazil nuts, and chocolate-covered creams, coconut bars, and don't forget those bunches of dried raisins still on the stems and all those seeds in them. We didn't waste anything at all. We cut a hole in our oranges and used a peppermint stick to suck the juice through the hole, then tore the orange open and ate all the pulp. We did spit out the seeds, but we laid our peels on the mantle board to dry and then ate it. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's story of Elizabeth Anne Rinehardt Gibson. Have a great day.
Thank you for watching Caring Corner. Make sure you head over to our Facebook and YouTube channel where you will find this program along with others. Be sure that you subscribe, like, and click the notification bell so that you will receive notifications for our weekly program. Don't forget to share this program to your social media platforms. If there's a question that you would like to ask, make sure to email it to caringcorner22@gmail.com. We hope to see you on the next episode of Caring Corner.